So here's what's happening right now in Kwara. People are talking everywhere, from Ilorin to Ofa, from Baruten to Omu Aran. The air is filled with questions, whispers, and debates. What exactly is going on between the Yoruba communities and the Emirs? Why are some people saying they are withdrawing support? And how did it get to this point where traditional harmony that stood for years suddenly feels shaky? Now, let's calm down and talk through it properly. Kwara State has always been known as that meeting point between the north and the southwest, a place where the Yoruba and Fulani cultures blend in a special way. You'll find Yoruba names everywhere, but also emirate structures, turbans, and palaces. That mixture made Kwara unique. For many years, people lived together, traded, married, and shared markets peacefully. But lately, tension has been rising quietly, especially around issues of security, leadership, and recognition. Many Yoruba groups started feeling that their voices are not being respected enough within some emirate councils. It's not about religion, not about hatred. It's about fairness and community representation. Some people say decisions affecting Yoruba communities are being made without proper consultation, and that's where this wave of frustration began. But the real fire sparked when security problems in some parts of Kwara became unbearable. Villages were being attacked by bandits, people kidnapped, and farmers chased from their lands. When communities cried out for protection, many felt the response was slow or silent. Some traditional rulers, especially emirs in certain areas, were accused of being too quiet. Youths began to protest. And during one of these peaceful protests, a youth leader was reportedly arrested after calling for stronger security actions. That arrest didn't go down well. It was like pouring petrol on a small fire. After that, community voices grew louder. Yoruba elders, youth associations, and opinion leaders started holding meetings. They said enough is enough, that they can't keep supporting leadership that doesn't protect their people or speak up for justice. That's when the statement came out, Yoruba withdraw support from emirs. And my people, that shook the state. If you're watching this video right now, please take 1 second to like this video and subscribe, because we are breaking everything down in simple English so you fully understand what's happening and what it means for everyone. So, back to the gist. When the news spread, many Fulani leaders and emirate councils were reportedly surprised. Some didn't even believe it at first. They said, how can the Yoruba withdraw support from emirs when the emirate system is part of everyone's heritage in Kwara? But others began to realize this wasn't an empty statement. It was a serious warning that people are losing trust in leadership that ignores their cries. Now let's look deeper at why this hits so hard. The Yoruba in Kwara have always seen themselves as proud descendants of Oduduwa, just like those in Oyo, Osun, and Lagos. Even though many live under emirate systems, they still keep that Yoruba identity alive, the language, the customs, and the pride. So when insecurity kept rising and people felt left alone, it became emotional. Many said, how can we support leaders who can't even speak for us when we are being killed or kidnapped? And the truth is, it's not only about insecurity, it's also about respect. Over the years, some Yoruba people in Kwara felt that the heritage was being slowly overshadowed by northern dominance, especially in appointment and recognition of traditional titles. That's why some groups began calling for what they described as reclassification, meaning they want Kwara and even parts of Kogi West to be more recognized as part of the Southwest, not the North. They say it's time to return to their cultural roots fully. As this debate continued, political tension joined the mix. Some politicians saw opportunity, others saw danger. Community elders urged caution, saying the matter should not be allowed to divide the state. But social media made everything louder. Online platforms were filled with videos, voice notes, and emotional messages. Some calling for unity, others calling for change. Now let's pause and think about this clearly. It's very easy for a story like this to cause misunderstanding if people react in anger. That's why in this gist, I want us to focus on the facts and the feelings, not fight, not tribal talk. Because the truth is, Most people in Kwara just want peace, fairness, and good leadership. Whether Yoruba or Fulani, everyone wants safety for their families and respect for their culture. So let's continue. When the announcement of withdrawal of support came out, Fulani elders were caught off guard. Some called it a shock, others said it's a wake-up call. Meetings started happening behind closed doors. Palace officials began reaching out to community leaders, trying to understand how to calm things down. But by that time, the Yoruba groups had already made up their minds to speak out boldly. They said they don't hate the Emirs, they just want fairness and accountability. The arrest of that youth leader became a symbol. To many people, it represented a bigger issue, that speaking the truth in some places now feels dangerous. So youth organizations across the state began to form small coalitions demanding that traditional rulers listen more and act faster to protect the people. If you're enjoying this gist, please like this video now and subscribe to the channel. It helps the video reach more people and it shows that you support honest, respectful news conversations like this. As tension rose, state officials tried to step in quietly. Some advised the emirs to hold peace talks, others advised the youth to calm down. But on social media, new hashtags were trending every day. Some people posted old historical photos of Ilorin showing that it was once ruled by Yoruba before the Fulani expansion in the 1800s. They used that history to argue that it's time to restore Yoruba influence. Others disagreed, saying the emirate system has brought stability and unity, and that reopening old wounds could cause trouble. This argument spread beyond Kwara. Leaders in Oyo and Osun started commenting. Some Yoruba monarchs, like the Alaafin of Oyo before his passing, had in the past called for peace and justice in Ilorin. Even now, newer voices in Yoruba land are warning that Kwara must not be allowed to become a battleground of culture and control. So, my people, what we are seeing is a serious moment in history. A moment where cultural identity and modern governance are colliding. A moment where citizens are saying, we want leaders who protect us, not just ones who hold titles. That's a powerful message. Let's also talk about the security side for a bit. Many villages in Kwara North and central parts have been facing serious challenges. Kidnapping for ransom, farmers afraid to go to the farm, herders being attacked, and communities pointing fingers. The insecurity has made everyone tense. When people are scared and hungry, anger grows easily. That's why these cultural issues are connecting deeply with the security crisis. People want protection first before anything else. And if we look carefully, this isn't only happening in Kwara. Across Nigeria, communities are re-evaluating their leadership. Whether it's a traditional ruler, a governor, or a local chief, people are saying, if you can't protect us, you don't deserve our support. That's the new mood of the country. But still, let's give credit where it's due. Some emirs in Kwara have come out to speak about peace and dialogue. They've urged calm, saying everyone belongs to the state and unity must not be destroyed by suspicion. They promised to work with government to improve security. Those are good steps, and it shows not all leaders are silent. The challenge now is whether action will match the promises. Because as we know, people don't just want words anymore. They want real change. And when they don't see that change, they start taking matters into their own hands. That's why some local vigilante groups are now forming alliances with youth leaders to defend their communities. It's a risky move, but also understandable when people feel abandoned. Remember to like this video and subscribe. It helps this story reach more people who care about peace and understanding across Nigeria. Now, what's next? The next stage will be whether the government calls a serious reconciliation meeting between the Emirate councils and Yoruba groups. Because if this matter is ignored, it could grow into a bigger political issue. There are already whispers that some politicians might use it ahead of future elections, trying to win support by playing the ethnic card. That's why it's very important for everyone to stay calm and wise. The truth is, Yoruba and Fulani people in Kwara have lived together for over a century. They share bloodlines, markets, schools, and even football teams. There's more that unites them than divides them. But unity can only stand when fairness is maintained. When one side feels disrespected or unheard, peace begins to shake. So right now, what people are asking for is equal voice, security, and respect for tradition. The Yoruba want their heritage recognized, and they want to feel that their culture is not being slowly erased. The Fulani leaders want to maintain harmony and tradition, but they must also understand that silence in the face of injustice breaks trust. Now, where were we? We stopped at the moment when Yoruba groups began openly speaking up. Fulani leaders were holding private meetings, and the Kwara government was trying to balance things quietly. But let's go deeper into how the situation really feels on the ground, because this is not just headlines, this is people's lives. In some towns across Kwara, you can actually feel the tension in everyday conversation. In the markets, some traders whisper that things are changing. In schools, students hear their parents talk about it at home. Even in churches and mosques, people are praying for peace, because everyone knows that once traditional harmony breaks, rebuilding it can take years. But let's be honest, this issue didn't start today. For a long time, there have been unspoken complaints. Some Yoruba people in Ilorin and other parts of Kwara say that they sometimes feel left behind when it comes to representation in traditional councils. They feel that despite their population and contribution to the state, their heritage isn't fully recognized in decision making. That feeling of exclusion doesn't show every day, but it has been building quietly. And what we're seeing now is that quiet frustration finally coming into the open. On the Fulani side, some traditional figures believe that these complaints are exaggerated, saying the Emirate system has always been inclusive and open to everyone. They argue that the focus should be on development, not division. But when people are losing loved ones to insecurity, those words don't always comfort them. What people want right now is safety, justice, and respect, not speeches. So when Yoruba groups said they were withdrawing support from the emirs, it wasn't just political talk. It was symbolic. It meant, we are no longer emotionally behind you until we see action. That is what shocked the Emirate circles. Because in the north, loyalty to traditional rulers is usually strong. When that loyalty begins to weaken, it's a signal that leadership has to reconnect with the people fast. And right after that statement went viral, you could see different reactions online. Some Yoruba youths from Oyo, Ogun, and even Lagos started saying, "We stand with our brothers and sisters in Kwara." They began reminding everyone of the old ties, that Ilorin, Ofa, and Igbomina land are all part of the Yoruba story. So this became more than a Kwara issue. It became a conversation about identity across the Southwest. Please take a moment now to like this video and subscribe, because what we are explaining here is something many people are misunderstanding online. We are telling it in simple, honest words so everyone can get the full picture. Now, as emotions rose, something interesting began happening. Community elders from both sides started reaching out to each other quietly. Some old family friends who are Yoruba and Fulani by marriage began to say, "Wait, let's not allow outsiders to divide us. We can solve this as brothers." That's the kind of conversation that gives hope, because truly division helps no one. But we also have to talk about the role of government in all this. Many people believe the Kwara state government has been too slow to respond to the root causes of insecurity. They say that the focus has been on politics and less on community peace building. For example, some roads leading to villages affected by attacks remain dangerous to travel. Farmers can't go back to their fields, and when people cry out for help, they sometimes get only promises but no results. That's why the anger turned toward traditional rulers too, because people expect local leaders to speak louder when the community is suffering. In this kind of situation, silence is easily misunderstood. A ruler might think he's being neutral, but the people might see it as indifference. That's exactly what happened here. Many Yoruba people saw the Emir's silence as ignoring their pain. Whether that's true or not, perception is powerful. Once people believe you don't care, regaining their trust is hard. If you're still watching, thank you so much. Don't forget to like and subscribe, because these are the kind of calm detailed updates that matter, and your engagement helps spread balanced information instead of anger or misinformation. Let's move deeper. As all this was happening, social media influencers and commentators started taking sides. Some of them said, it's time to reclaim Yoruba heritage in Ilorin. Others said, let's not divide what our ancestors built together. You could see passion on both sides. That's how you know the issue has deep roots, when culture and emotion meet politics. Now let's talk about something that most people are missing, the younger generation's voice. The youths in Kwara today are different from the parents. They're more exposed, more educated, and they spend a lot of time online. So they know about their history, they know what's happening in other states, and they're no longer afraid to speak out. That's part of what's driving this change. The same energy that we saw during Amaskimo Ensas, the courage to demand accountability, is now being expressed locally. Youths are saying, we respect tradition, but tradition must serve the people, not the other way around. That's a big shift. And traditional institutions across Nigeria are watching carefully. Because if citizens can withdraw support in one place, it sets a new example for others. It means people now see leadership as a responsibility, not a privilege. But we must also remember that while speaking out is good, it must be done peacefully. Because when anger turns to confrontation, nobody wins. The best solution is always dialogue. And that's why some religious and civic leaders are calling for a peace summit in Kwara. They say everyone, the emirs, Yoruba chiefs, youth leaders, and government representatives should sit down and talk openly. That would be the wise path forward. My people, let's be real. The country is already facing many challenges. Inflation is high, insecurity is everywhere, and unemployment is growing. The last thing Nigeria needs is a cultural conflict inside one of its most peaceful states. So, if there's one thing both sides must agree on, it's that peace must come first. Respect and dialogue can fix what pride and anger destroy. And let's not forget, both the Yoruba and Fulani share more than they think. They share markets, schools, and even families. So when one side starts feeling angry, it affects the other side too. That's why I keep saying, unity doesn't mean silence. You can correct injustice without creating enmity. If you agree with that, please like this video and subscribe right now, because this message of peace and understanding is very important and your support keeps it spreading. Let's look at how this story might affect politics next. Analysts believe that this tension could influence future elections in Kwara. When cultural groups start speaking with one voice, they can sway political direction. That's why politicians are watching quietly. Some are even trying to calm the situation behind closed doors, because they know that when communities feel ignored, they can vote differently. But one thing that stands out in all of this is that people are becoming more aware of their power. They are learning that they can hold even traditional rulers accountable. That awareness is healthy, but it must be guided carefully so it doesn't turn into hate. Accountability should bring reform, not rebellion. Another side of the story is the historical pride of Ilorin. Many Ilorin people see themselves as Yoruba by blood, but Fulani by tradition. That dual identity has always been part of what makes the city special. But for some younger people, that mix now feels confusing. They ask, are we still Yoruba? Are we Northern? Or are we both? It's a complex question, and this current tension is bringing it back into public discussion. Still, the older generation keeps reminding everyone that Ilorin's strength lies in that balance, being both, not divided. Because history shows that every time people tried to divide the city along tribal lines, it only brought sadness. The better way is to celebrate the mixture while fixing the injustice. Let's also note something important. Not all emirs are being accused here. Some are working hard behind the scenes to calm things down. There are reports of quiet meetings where traditional rulers invited youth representatives and listened to their grievances directly. Those small efforts might not make headlines, but they are powerful steps toward healing. Because listening is the first step to restoring trust. Now imagine what could happen if every Emir in Kwara called a public meeting with community elders and youths, not just for show, but to really listen. It could change the whole story. People just want to feel heard. They want to know that their leaders understand their pain. As this continues, one question keeps coming up. Will the Yoruba groups soften their stance? Some say yes, if they see genuine effort from the Emirate councils. Others say no, they want full recognition before anything else. But most ordinary citizens say they just want peace and fairness, not drama. Please take a second and like this video again and subscribe if you haven't yet, because this is where we discuss these sensitive topics with maturity and truth, not noise or insults. Another thing that has been noticed recently is that some external groups, people not even from Kwara, are trying to use the situation to cause division. They post misleading videos or comments online, pretending to be from one side just to make things worse. That's why it's important for people in Kwara to control their own narrative, to speak for themselves. Because outsiders don't always understand the bond that truly exists between the Yoruba and Fulani families there. At the end of the day, this story is about one big truth. When people feel heard, they stay loyal. When they feel ignored, they rebel. That's leadership in any society. Traditional rulers, just like elected leaders, survive on trust. And that trust must be earned daily through fairness and courage. The lesson from all this is that Nigeria's traditional system is evolving. People still love culture and respect thrones, but they now want accountability. You can't just wear the crown and stay silent when your people are suffering. You have to speak, act, and protect. And that's why this Kwara situation is bigger than it looks. It's not only about Yoruba versus Emir. He said it's about the future of leadership in Nigeria, a message that tradition must go hand in hand with justice. So, viewers, what do you think? Should traditional rulers be held responsible when there's insecurity in their communities, or should all the blame go to government alone? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'll read through them after this gist. And don't forget again, please like this video and subscribe to this channel so we can keep these conversations going in peace and truth. Now, after all those meetings and quiet conversations across Kwara State, something interesting began to happen. You see, for years, Yoruba and Fulani communities had shared spaces, and from markets to mosques, from family friendships to political alliances. But now people started to talk differently. Those little greetings that once carried warmth suddenly turned polite but distant. The energy changed. Even traditional gatherings where both groups used to sit together became tense. Elders started choosing their words carefully. Some avoided public statements, others gave coded messages. You could feel that silent gap growing wider. Many Yoruba leaders in the state started to say they were tired of being ignored in their own ancestral land. They wanted fairness, equal respect, and a voice that truly mattered. And while this conversation spread quietly at first, social media gave it a louder microphone. Posts started flying on Facebook, X, and WhatsApp. People expressing frustration about how emirs were allegedly sidelining Yoruba chiefs, or how traditional events were dominated by one side. And just like that, the discussion jumped from local circles to national attention. Now, before we go further, if you're following this gist right now, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to stay updated, because stories like these are shaping what's really happening in Nigeria today. It's more than just a headline. It's about culture, power, and respect between communities. As the discussions heated up, the emirs themselves started to feel the tension. Some were confused, others tried to calm things down. In one part of Kwara, reports came that an emir called for a meeting with the local Yoruba elders, hoping to clarify misunderstandings. But the turnout was low. The elders didn't show up in full numbers, a quiet but strong message that they were no longer willing to just talk without action. And you know, in Nigeria, when traditional matters reach that kind of point, it's not just politics anymore, it's identity. Because for Yoruba people, traditional structures are sacred. And for the emirs, their authority carries deep history. So when these two great institutions start pulling apart, it shakes the roots of the state. Now, what makes this situation even more interesting is how political leaders responded. Many of them stayed silent at first. No one wanted to take sides publicly. But when the story began trending online, some tried to mediate, others tried to downplay it. However, the truth is, people already saw through that silence. To many Yoruba youths, this was not about hatred. It was about representation. They wanted to be heard in the traditional council. They wanted to be respected in decisions that affect their lands, culture, and people. And in that same period, Fulani leaders began to have internal conversations too. Some felt misunderstood. They said, "We have no problem with our Yoruba brothers. We have lived together for generations." But others, especially younger voices, took the withdrawal as an insult. That's where the confusion began among Fulani leaders. Some wanted peace talks, others saw it as a challenge. And that division quietly grew. A few Fulani elders started asking, how did we even get here? How did the relationships that lasted decades suddenly begin to crack? Many pointed fingers. Some blamed politicians for using tribe to divide. Others blamed social media for inflaming old wounds. But one thing was clear. The trust that once held everyone together had been shaken. And if you think this is small, think again. Because when traditional alliances start to break, it often ripples into politics, trade, and even security. Kwara has always been a bridge between North and South, between Fulani heritage and Yoruba culture. But when that bridge starts shaking, the whole region feels it. Now, some elders said this move by Yoruba leaders to withdraw support from emirs wasn't done in anger. It was a message of principle. They said, "We are not fighting anyone. We are simply standing up for dignity." But the message landed with mixed reactions. Some applauded the courage, others said it could fuel unnecessary division. Still, if you talk to people in Ilorin, Offa, or even Omu Aran, you'll hear different views. Some say the emirs have done well in uniting communities, while others believe that Yoruba culture in Kwara deserves stronger visibility. It's that balance, trying to honor both traditions, that makes the story complex. But here's where it gets deeper. The confusion among Fulani leaders wasn't just about Yoruba withdrawal, it also exposed internal cracks. Some Fulani chiefs began to question how leadership decisions were made among themselves. They asked why they weren't consulted before issuing statements or hosting reconciliation meetings. So, in a strange twist, what started as a Yoruba protest ended up sparking Fulani debate too. And this shows one thing: Nigeria's diversity is both a blessing and a challenge. When handled with fairness, it builds strength. But when one side feels ignored, the cracks show fast. Now, before I continue, kindly like this video, my people, and subscribe if you haven't done that already.
That's how we keep this kind of real discussion alive. This is not about tribe or division. It's about learning from what's happening around us and understanding the bigger picture. As the days passed, reports came in that several traditional meetings in Kwara were postponed indefinitely. Community leaders didn't want gatherings to escalate into heated exchanges. Youth groups on both sides also began to release public statements. Some called for peace, others demanded reforms in how traditional systems operate. It became a statewide conversation. From Ilorin to Irepodun, people were talking about identity, history, and the future. Now, let's pause and think, what really caused this? Because in every conflict, there's always a build-up. Some say it started from land issues, others say it came from power recognition in councils.
A few believe it's about how appointments in local leadership are made, that one side feels excluded. When people feel left out for too long, even silence starts to sound loud. But something beautiful also began to emerge. Many youths started calling for dialogue, not anger. They said, "Let's fix this with respect. We can disagree and still live in peace." And that message began spreading faster than the tension itself. Religious leaders also stepped in, urging both sides to remember that Kwara is known as a peaceful state, where unity should always come first. But as the conversation widened, you could sense that this story was bigger than just Kwara.
It reflected a deeper Nigerian issue: the balance between tradition and modern identity, between heritage and governance, between who gets to speak and who feels heard.
And while leaders continue to deliberate behind closed doors, the people on the streets already made up their minds. Respect must go both ways. Because when people feel respected, peace lasts longer. Now, after the tension grew and both Yoruba and Fulani leaders began holding private discussions, the political space in Kwara slowly started reacting. Politicians who had been quiet began to speak, not openly in rallies or on television, but in small meetings and press notes, because they understood something important. When traditional balance shakes, political influence also shifts. Many Yoruba politicians in the state began to feel encouraged. They saw this as an opportunity to speak up for better inclusion in local councils and leadership roles. Some said,
"It's time our people are properly represented in every decision that concerns this land." And just like that, traditional matters started shaping political strategies ahead of future elections. At the same time, Fulani leaders within the political circle began working quietly to calm their people. They didn't want this issue to be misused by outsiders. A few of them even reached out to Yoruba elders behind the scenes, sending delegations to rebuild relationships that had stood for decades. But still, there was that silent tension, the kind that can't be fixed overnight. And if you talk to people who live in Ilorin or Asa, you'll hear them say the same thing. Everyone wants peace, but they also want fairness. Nobody is against anybody, but every community wants their respect. That's what this entire matter truly represents. Not hatred, not fight, but a cry for recognition. Now, you know Nigeria. When a story like this trends, it doesn't stay in one state. It spreads. Suddenly, other states in the southwest and north central began paying attention. Commentators started debating on radio and social media. Should traditional leadership be restructured? Should Yoruba titles and identity in Kwara get more visibility? Can emirs and obas share authority in the same region? And these are serious questions. Questions about identity, culture, and leadership in a diverse nation like ours. Because Kwara has always been that connecting point. It's where Yoruba culture meets Fulani tradition, and both sides have contributed to what makes the state peaceful and prosperous. But peace doesn't mean silence.
True peace means fairness. Now, let's be real. For years, Ilorin's history itself has been a mix of Yoruba and Fulani roots. That's why this conversation is sensitive. When Yoruba elders say they're withdrawing support, they're not saying they hate anyone. They're saying they want their story to be respected. They want younger generations to know that their heritage still matters in the state's future. Fulani elders, on the other hand, are saying they also deserve to maintain their cultural presence and leadership role, especially in areas where they have long-standing authority. So this issue is not about who is right or wrong. It's about how both sides can live together in a way that no one feels smaller than the other. As the days went by, reports came in that community peace meetings were being planned, this time not under the usual government structure, but by joint committees of elders, youth groups, and religious leaders. They wanted to calm things down and rebuild trust from the grassroots level. Because one thing everyone agreed on is that Kwara cannot afford to divide along cultural lines. And truly, the people of Kwara are known for tolerance and unity. Even when political storms pass through, the state has always found a way to stay stable. And that's something many outsiders don't understand. That beneath the loud headlines, there's still that quiet will among the people to live in peace. But here's where the gist gets deeper. Some sources revealed that after the Yoruba withdrawal announcement,
a few prominent clerics and traditional figures began to visit local radio stations to preach understanding. They said, let's not let outsiders use this to create division. They reminded people that Ilorin is home to both cultures, that its strength comes from that mix, not from separation. And that message started to soften hearts. Many young people began shifting the conversation from blame to solutions. They started community dialogues online, Twitter Spaces, Facebook Lives, asking, How can Yoruba and Fulani communities share cultural respect in Kwara without conflict? Those discussions became powerful because they showed that this generation understands something older generations sometimes forget, that unity doesn't mean losing identity. You can respect your neighbor's tradition without losing your own. And that's the spirit people started embracing again. Now, while all this was happening, observers also noticed that politicians began adjusting their messages too. Campaign talks slowly started, including phrases like equal representation, balanced leadership, and unity in diversity. You see, once people start demanding fairness, politicians quickly follow that energy. They don't want to be left behind. And you can tell, this Yoruba withdrawal story has already changed the political conversation in Kwara. Whether people like it or not, every leader now understands that both the Yoruba and Fulani communities must be treated as partners in the state's future. Before I continue, my people, if you're still watching or listening right now, please like this video and subscribe to the channel.
That's how we keep bringing you the real gist and full updates without cutting corners. When you like and subscribe, it helps this kind of real conversation reach more Nigerians who want understanding, not confusion. Now, as peace talks continue, analysts say this situation could actually become a blessing in disguise. Why? Because it's forcing long overdue conversations. Many people have always said that Nigeria's strength lies in its diversity, but we hardly ever practice that respect in leadership. This incident has opened everyone's eyes to the fact that inclusion must be deliberate. Traditional rulers are beginning to talk about reforms, maybe new councils where both Yoruba and Fulani chiefs can sit equally. Some have suggested creating cultural exchange programs in schools to teach both heritages. Religious leaders are also planning joint events to remind the people that beyond tribe, they are all brothers and sisters in faith and in humanity. And honestly, that's the hope that keeps Nigeria going. We may argue, we may disagree, but in the end, we always find a way to return to peace. That's what makes this country strong, the ability to argue and still coexist. Now let's talk about how this story is ending. As of the latest developments, many Yoruba groups have said they're open to reconciliation as long as respect is mutual. They said clearly, we are not enemies of anyone, but we want fairness. And from the Fulani side, some emirs have sent warm messages back calling for peace and understanding. That's progress. That's how healing begins. It doesn't happen in one day, but at least people are talking again, not fighting.
The confusion that started among Fulani leaders is also slowly clearing up. They're now realizing that the withdrawal wasn't meant as hostility. It was meant as a wake-up call. And sometimes that's what every society needs. A wake-up call to remind everyone of what really matters. By now, community meetings have restarted in some areas. Market leaders are also joining in the dialogue because they know that when people work together, trade flows better and everybody wins. Even in schools, teachers are reminding students that they should learn both Yoruba and Hausa greetings to keep that unity spirit alive. So, in the end, this story, Yoruba, withdraw support from emirs in Kwara, leaving Fulani leaders confused and divided, is not just about disagreement. It's about growth.
It's about people standing for respect and others learning to listen. Nigeria will always have these cultural crossroads, but if handled wisely, they become bridges, not barriers. Because whether Yoruba, Fulani, Igbo, Tiv, or any other group, we all share the same hope, peace, progress, and understanding. So my people, as you finish listening to this gist, remember, it's not about who is right or wrong. It's about learning that respect for one another keeps our communities strong. If you enjoyed this full gist, please like this video, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next big story. Every week, we bring you real discussions about what's happening in Nigeria and beyond. Stories that matter, told in clear and simple English that everyone can follow.